This video is going to be a film study review of some of the important plays from the Ravens' 41-31 win over the Tampa Bay Bucks on Monday Night Football, specifically focusing on the Baltimore Ravens defense and coverage choices, with most of our direction and attention here going to be on Roquan Smith. Now, he's been the focus of a lot of conversation so far from Ravens fans, some of it legitimate, and in some cases, some of it is wildly off base. So far in 2024, Roquan Smith has 74 tackles. It's second in the league, by the way. Only one tackle for loss. One interception in week one against Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. But in terms of the tackles for losses, he's not really given opportunities as a blitzer very often. I do have him as a blitzer 3 times in the first half against Tampa Bay, so that's a good sign if you ask me, because I don't know about you, it's a little bit old and stale seeing our inside linebackers and or Kyle Hamilton when he's on in the dime alignment put up near the line of scrimmage so often to threaten a blitz, essentially simulated pressures. And I think that word simulated should be in air quotes at times with the Ravens because we use it so much and we very rarely actually blitz those guys. Roquan Smith, I don't know what his blitz percentage is compared to that mug alignment, essentially mug meaning he's on the line of scrimmage threatening a blitz or forcing the offensive line into a particular protection scheme because he is lined up, let's say, in the A gap or the B gap. Hopefully what I'm saying makes sense. Basically, there's, I think, a larger percentage of the time we are putting ourselves out of position by having our linebackers there so often. Now, that didn't work out. That dynamic didn't occur as much in 2023. Why is that? I don't know. I don't know exactly why teams are able to exploit that mug look, and I'll show you 2 examples of it here in this video. As an aside, the entirety of this film study video will be available on my Patreon. This is solely going to focus on 7 or 8 plays that the Ravens defense was either successful on or where I think there were breakdowns, and I'll try to point that out to you. All right, so we'll get the film started here. This is going to be first possession, and it's a 3rd and 3, the first third down of the game, in fact, for the Bucks. Just very poor awareness by the Ravens defense, in my opinion. This is not to blame Roquan Smith on this at all. If you don't have a football coaching background or playing background, nothing about this is Roquan Smith's fault. The running back is releasing out into the flats. We'll go back to the all-22 here in a moment. Basically a shield concept again. Who's responsible for him? Well, it looks like it's Odafe Owe because he's dropping out, but he's pinned down on the inside because of his alignment. And what I mean by that is there's 2 tightly aligned receivers. And look, this is designed. Washington used this against us 2 times. I think teams have stumbled across it or noticed it on film in 2024 that we're oftentimes not covering the running back out into the flats on a direct release. It's really unconscionable, if you ask me. There's no excuse for us not to have an answer for this, whether that's zoning it out and allowing Brandon Stephens to push to the flats and some type of safety to take over. It's Marlon Humphrey in motion across. You can see we had trouble communicating between Marlon Humphrey and Kyle Hamilton. It is a 2-receiver set to the top side. One of those receivers happens to be a tight end. The point is the Ravens' defensive structure is being taken advantage of. This is not defenses taking advantage of Roquan Smith on this particular play, or Kyle Hamilton, or Marlon Humphrey, or Brandon Stephens. No one is put in position to guard this because of the coverage we're playing, man, versus a compressed set by the offense, meaning all of the eligible receivers are tightly aligned from a horizontal standpoint. And so you kind of get a better idea of that from the end zone angle here. And you guys lose some of the receivers off screen, but you know that Godwin and Evans are just barely off screen to our right. If you're going to play man and you're going to run with receivers, Humphrey there and Stephens here, someone's in man on the back who is wide ass open off screen. It's to me dereliction of duty at this point that our staff and our players can't figure this out. This is happening every week, at least 2 times per game. And it's no one's fault, in my opinion, but the people that are in charge of the defense. And then the defensive captains over there on the other side, who for whatever reason can't figure this shit out. Moving forward, second possession. It's a really nice play by Roquan, and you get the end zone angle of this one. Kind of illustrative of how he plays against downhill stuff. Right here. 2nd and 3 after a 7-yard gain. Really nice job of him kind of setting this offensive lineman up. So he stepped in this direction briefly and then got great eyes and ability to redirect. Also, Trenton Simpson, I thought, played very well on Monday night, especially his take-ons, meaning how he's taking on blocks. I think Trenton Simpson showed a lot of potential in this game for a wide array of techniques. And again, during this video and then the ensuing full-length film study video that'll be on my Patreon, available to those that are willing to subscribe or donate for, I think, $5 a month, Trenton Simpson showed a lot of reasons to be on the field more. I don't know what that means as far as nickel alignment. We, in fact, were in our nickel on this particular play. His take-on skills are getting better. He's violently attacking offensive linemen with inside hand position and essentially upending them. And you can see he's got his eyes to the inside as well, just like Roquan Smith does. They're almost in a mirrored position. If you look at their inside, when I say inside, I'm talking about the left portion of Simpson's body and the right portions of Roquan's body. They're almost in the same exact position. Their outside leg being able to frame off, push off, and then shed to the inside, essentially vice the running back for a short gain on a 2nd and 3. He actually did gain the first down for 3 yards. Still second possession. It's going to be a screen to the running back, and this is not an example of bad tackling. This is an example of you're outnumbered at the point of attack. So it's a 3-on-2. And you, if you're the viewer and you watch games live and you say this is bad tackling, this is nice design by the Bucs. They're a very good screen team. They are drawing the outside linebacker edge defender upfield, number one. Number two, they're releasing offensive linemen into the boundary to the second level. And now, do we have to get more coordinated here? Yes. Simpson wants to force this inside, so he wants to be the force player and make the running back stay to the inside, not allow the running back a free rush to get up the sideline. Of course, it makes sense. As a result of that, if he's the force player, you want Roquan Smith inside out there. Well, the problem is they've got a lead blocker here. So even if Roquan does go to the inside leverage, he's going to have to deal with that lead blocker. You either need one or both of these guys to just punch the hell out of both of the offensive linemen and try to compress it inside. The real problem is our defensive tackle, who theoretically would be the backside inside pursuit guy, has gotten absolutely lost on the play. So now, am I saying the breakdown is Travis Jones on a screen play into the boundary? No, it's a team defense element. But when you rewatch the play, having pointed out what I just did, here's Travis Jones. It ends up being a 3-on-2. How do you decry or run down the two defenders on a 3-on-2 fast break in basketball? You don't. It's very difficult to defend that, number one. Number two, and now that you have pointed it out to you, notice what Travis Jones is doing. He's trying to find the football. Good. However, he's wrong. And not only is it a 3-on-2, but you even have a third offensive lineman in position on once the running back cuts it back. It's a huge gain for the Bucs. They're a good screen team. We have trouble with screens, particularly as an edge defender position. Owe and Ngakoue were baited upfield often in this game, and the screens, I think, were able to hit us a little bit bigger as a result. We're also not getting our hands up pretty much hardly at all. All right, a running back screen still on that second possession. So these are the types of things that annoy me to no end from a defensive structure standpoint. Now, this is a great play by Kyle Hamilton. A ridiculous play. He has 3 of them in this game. Tackles somewhat similar to this. You got him off screen to our left. When that running back motions out, you can see his foot and lower body here just a little bit before losing him because of the frame. That creates a 4 to one side. And Kyle Hamilton, look, he's getting held here in a moment too. Kyle Hamilton is violently taking on the blocker. He's the force player, makes the tackle, shoestring tackle, I guess. What bothers me the most is that there's no corresponding reaction by us. So as the running back motions out, we don't move. We don't move at all. Some teams would stand up this defensive end and walk him out over number 4. So then he, number 4, becomes the read, the key for that defensive end. So here's what I mean by number 4. You got number 1, you got number 2. The running back is number 3, counting from the outside in. And now you have number 4. Anytime there's 4 to one side from an alignment standpoint, someone from the way that I was taught has to deal with either 3 or 4. So Kyle Hamilton is dealing with 3. The guy who ends up dealing with 4 is Roquan Smith. We're out-leveraged, guys. We are out-leveraged. No one is dealing with 4. Tavius Robinson is upfield, and you say, Coach, that's the design of the play. They're going to draw the defensive ends upfield. What I'm saying to you is our defense is not disciplined and not well-trained because we're not dealing with numbers from a teaching standpoint. No one now you don't say to the player, "Hey, you've got to deal with 4 or you got to deal with 4 or you've got to deal with 4." Someone does. You find the language to explain it from a formational standpoint so the players understand it in game while they're looking through their helmet in the middle of the moment. From a conceptual standpoint, once again, we are outflanked. And it happens consistently, at least in the early game film. The running back releasing into the flats, like I showed you on the 3rd and 3. The screen to the running back that was a 3-on-2 or almost really a 4-on-2 since Travis Jones veered to the wrong side. And now on this boundary side screen, fortunately, we get a great tackle by Kyle Hamilton to limit the running back to no gain. Still, second possession here, going to be a fantastic pass defense, a fantastic break on the ball by Wiggins. So the Bucs are getting to the line, snapping the ball quick. Why? We have trouble identifying things. In fact, we don't identify things half the time. This is a collection of players over here on this side of the ball that A, gets paid a lot of money, B, has accomplished a lot in either college and or the NFL, in most cases the NFL. Why can't they identify things? I think it's the system that's been set up, and it's not being promoted during practice. But I digress a little bit. You have a tight end and Evans down here to the boundary, right side. This is after the play by Kyle Hamilton. On the running back, tight end releases into the flats. Simpson pushing that side. Roquan looking to wall off anyone to the field. So he's got a nice alignment, and I think Godwin's going to be able to cross his face a little bit more than I'd like for him to be able to, but not really at the point of attack. Evans' route is designed to be in between the space from Wiggins to Kyle Hamilton, and Baker Mayfield is throwing the football. Wiggins is already breaking on it. He's done a great job of identifying this from a standpoint of who Baker Mayfield's throwing the ball to, and I think at the last moment Baker's throwing it a little bit higher because he sees Wiggins breaking on it. He understood that he couldn't put this ball in a more catchable location because Wiggins was breaking on the play. There really wasn't much pressure. Kyle Van Noy is trying to get to the quarterback, and he's a little bit low. My point is, I think when Baker's in the middle of his throwing motion, he understood that Wiggins was going to, quote, be there, and so he had to put this throw up a little bit higher, which forced it to be more inaccurate than it probably would have been if Wiggins doesn't make that initial break or move on the ball. Hopefully I explained that in a way that makes sense. I think it's a really nice rep by Wiggins, who played quite well on Monday night, in my opinion. Moving forward here, third possession, 3rd and 3, same concept. So you can blame Roquan Smith if you want to. We are not lined up in a manner. We used to call it alignment, assignment, and be violent. So you have to take an alignment in order to complete your assignment. And if our assignment, from a Roquan Smith standpoint, is the running back, how in the heck is he supposed to navigate these shield concepts, which is essentially what you're getting, and the running back releasing into the flats? You're not going to run through them, period. In this case, he runs into Marlon Humphrey, who's walked up. It's a 3rd and 3. Look, there's a myriad of concepts that Tampa Bay could run. So we're not going to be able to defend everything. We certainly want to be able to defend this. We don't want running backs just a free release out into the flats. No one from a corner, nickel safety, outside linebacker, inside linebacker standpoint is near him. Roquan is obviously, quote, responsible for him. Blame him if you want. But it's not his fault. Being lined up in that mug alignment puts you at such an angle such that you and Marlon Humphrey are on the same level. It's not a surprise to me that they actually collisioned each other and ran into one another. So what I mean by same level is their depth off the ball, away from the line of scrimmage. Yard, yard and a half, maybe a yard and 3/4 for both of them. And then Roquan is taking a flat angle because he's trying to get there. It's 3rd and 3. Marlon Humphrey is pressed up. This is bad design. This is bad design for the threat. If you want our players to be mugged up, threatening the blitz, you have to give them the opportunity to break out of this and get to a normal alignment somewhere in that area. Same concept I talked about with Kyle Hamilton's play down near the goal line. This is trips or bunch. Fine. It's damn near quads. So the running back is set to that side. It's essentially 4 to 1 side once the running back releases to the same side as the bunch. So when I stopped it or paused it here because now you clearly can see we have 4 to a side. Post snap, Roquan is out leveraged, which means the Ravens defense is out leveraged once again. One more time from the end zone angle. There's different ways to get this accomplished. We could have Roquan at depth and have him run over the top, Marlon being in press coverage, be underneath, and they wouldn't rub or they wouldn't run into each other. We could also zone it at times and have corners sit in the flats. We haven't shown that look, which is why that particular post-snap look, the zoning it, which is why teams are so comfortable running those pick shield concepts with the running back directly out into the flats because they know we're not going to zone it. That's the whole point. Third possession here, this is Marlon Humphrey's interception in cover 2. We talked about this multiple times, so we're trying to focus on Roquan Smith. It's kind of hard to be honest with you, at times with our pass defense and the poor structural reactions that we have on defense. This is a really nice rep from Roquan. Obviously, Marlon gets credit for the interception. You've got a kind of a trickle-down effect here. Because Baker Mayfield's looking to that side, Kyle Hamilton is as well. Fine. Kyle Hamilton's the safety. Trenton Simpson's trying to match up. He has a zone reaction, Trenton Simpson, because he releases McMillan to the back portion of the end zone. Kyle Hamilton is also having a zone reaction. Roquan Smith is a man reaction. So he's following Godwin across the field. It doesn't mean that Roquan was assigned to guard Godwin man. It means that during the play, he had the awareness to recognize, hey, I can't just let him free run across the field. I think it's a really nice example of Roquan forcing Baker Mayfield away from one of the guys that's most reliable for him. So you've got 2 receivers coming across here left to right on the screen, and Roquan covers up one of them that would oftentimes pop open, Godwin, and then Baker Mayfield loads up. Credit to Marlon Humphrey for his awareness during the play, because he understood that Roquan was covering up Godwin, so he went back and checked on McMillan in the back right corner of the end zone. A brilliant play by Marlon Humphrey, an underrated, perhaps undercovered example of Roquan Smith doing a nice job in coverage during the snap, basically adjusting from zone to man once Baker Mayfield had a ton of time to throw the football. Marlon Humphrey with an interception here in cover 3. Move forward to the 4th possession. Roquan getting depth, which I really like. It's 3rd and 13. Roquan's a hash defender. Ardarius Washington's a hash defender. We've essentially got a man zone hybrid reaction from Kyle Hamilton over here. There's no reason for Kyle Hamilton to check down on the running back on 3rd and 13 and leave all this space for someone to operate in from a wide receiver / tight end perspective. Marlon has done a wonderful job here of reading the quarterback on the release, coming back and basically taking an interception away from Nate Wiggins. Wiggins could have had, Wiggins could have 3 interceptions this year if Marlon didn't take this one from him and he caught 2 other opportunities that he had. It's a brilliant job, I think, in coverage for us on a 3rd and 13. We've got to get into more of these known passing situations. Roquan is able to get great depth, get to the hash. Marlon pushes the flat and then drops back to be in a zone that he, quote, shouldn't be in when you draw up cover 3 on paper. But it's 3rd and 13, so the line to gain is the positive 45. And so Ardarius Washington can have more depth, Roquan can have more depth, and then that allows also Marlon Humphrey to break here after looking at the quarterback. It's just great football awareness, a great football play in terms of catching it. It's unfortunate that Marlon Humphrey suffered the injury. I think it's pretty obvious. He'll be out for this week, if not more. Even though they said there was no, structural damage, it wasn't a major injury that he suffered on the play. 5th possession, pistol set, and we're going to focus on Roquan and Trenton Simpson here a little bit. It is a gain of 5. It's a nice job of getting low to make the tackle. Every tackle inside the box isn't going to be the same. Every tackle isn't going to be chest to chest. Every tackle isn't going to be, a huge hit from an inside linebacker standpoint. We'll get back to the end zone angle. My apologies. I was adjusting something off screen. We'll get back to the end zone angle, and you'll see Roquan get low to make this tackle, while Trenton Simpson, I feel like on this particular play, Trenton Simpson could be a little bit more aggressive trying to condense the gap. Roquan is sliding over the top, essentially scraping as the backside inside linebacker. Conceptually, I've always felt like, and I've been taught by people way smarter than me, that the backside inside linebacker is who you want to be either clean, number 1, number 2, who you want to be to react appropriately to the run concept. You can see we got a combo here on the front side. Roquan's going to climb over the top of that, so jump over it, really athletic move in that tight space, and then get low to make the tackle. This is an underrated play, if you ask me, even though it does go for a 5-yard gain. So the way the combo works out is they're comboing Matabike, and the left tackle is responsible to get up to the backside inside linebacker. You could say that any one of these blocks is the most important block, but for my money, as a defensive guy, if you can't get to my backside inside linebacker on a front side combo, then we're going to be there at the point of attack. And Roquan makes this happen with his athleticism, his contact balance against, I think it's Wirfs, and then able to put his cleats in the ground, get low, and make the tackle on the running back. Yes, like I said, it did go for a 5-yard gain. Nonetheless, it's an illustration of how athletic he is in that space. Joker set, really nice reaction from Roquan on an inside-out angle. Also, Trenton Simpson, you get an idea of how athletic he is. Yes, he misses the tackle initially, but at least he misses the tackle on the correct leverage side. So what I mean by that is he forces the running back to go back to the inside. He didn't give the running back a free lane to get to the sideline, to our corner, to our third level defenders in the secondary. And as a result of him missing the tackle on the correct side, Roquan Smith is able to pursue and get to the point of attack. It's a Joker's screen. So Jokers, you've got 2 running backs in the backfield. Obviously, one of them is McMillan, who is, from a positional standpoint, a wide receiver. He's also the targeted player on the snap. It's a designed to look like snag, but the tight end's trying to get a piece of Simpson so that McMillan can catch it and run. So Simpson has done a great job here, if you ask me, of going underneath the tight end's block, snag concept route, however you choose to describe it, a route, a block, or both, and then getting to the outside shoulder of the receiver. Yeah, you want him to miss the tackle, cool. but at least you missed the tackle on the correct side, and your leveraged teammates from an inside-out angle are able to finish the play. This is a good play. Unfortunately, this is not the type of structure that we have consistently if you look at some of the other reactions to pass plays that we had earlier in this video and throughout this game against the Bucs and so far in 2024. We do not provide, in my opinion, consistent support for the initial tacklers at the point of attack, especially on pass concepts. This is going to be no vice on a running back by Ojabo and then Simpson to the boundary. I think it's because we're dropping Ojabo into the boundary. He's unfamiliar with that role. And then Bucky Irvin is able to wind this back all the way across the field. So Ojabo is going to drop back, but he doesn't really drop back at that angle for that line that I just drew. Additional to that, we're blitzing Roquan. So once this ball was thrown to Irvin, after the play action, Baker Mayfield getting rid of the ball quick. Because of the angle that Ojabo takes, there's no one on an inside force. Now, there is really no term force for an inside-out angle. You want to vice or surround, corral, whatever you want to call it, the running back. Theoretically, most of the time, your running back is going to be a better athlete than the inside linebackers or even your OLBs out in space. Doesn't necessarily apply with Trenton Simpson, but that's a topic for another conversation. Because of the angle that Ojabo takes, Irvin is able to wind this back across. And yes, it's nice blocking by the Bucs as he works his way across the field. The point is here we happen to have put a player in a position that he's unfamiliar with. Having said that, I would still like for Roquan to be able to make this tackle. You know, once he gets to the point where he's near the top of the numbers, to me, that's a play that he's got to make. In my opinion, his reaction demonstrated a lack of trust for the players that were out in that space already. Essentially, Ojabo and Simpson. Once he gets flat here, and as soon as he steps upfield, the play is over from the standpoint of Roquan being able to make the tackle. Other guys pursuing inside out, I'm not discussing them here, but once Roquan gets here, I'll pause it, and then you guys can see him step upfield a little bit. Essentially, at this point, what you're doing is you're practicing against tunnel screen. That's the reaction that you train. And so tunnel screens, you normally have an offensive lineman who is multiple offensive linemen who are leading out at this angle. And so oftentimes your job as an inside linebacker, particularly the backside inside linebacker, is to run behind all that, get flat. You might have to get skinny and run underneath of it and deck the guy with the ball when he cuts it back. And in my opinion, Roquan had a chance to do that here. Instead, he kind of chipped or touched the tight end, drew him upfield a little bit. Irvin cuts it back across. You can be critical of pre-snap alignment. You can be critical of reads. You can be critical of tackling ability. This is an example of something that will be hypersensitive to inside linebacker or any technique that's inside out. In my opinion, you run underneath of the tight end's block there, and you try to annihilate anyone who's cutting off of that. Again, similar to a tunnel screen drill that you do as a second-level defender, basically training people how to react to it. In that particular instance, Roquan unable to react in that manner. Really nice play here by Simpson and Tavius Robinson on a jet sweep down into the boundary. I know this video is going on a little bit longer for only wanting to review a certain amount of plays. They had run this jet sweep earlier in the game and hit us big. In fact, on the 4th and 1, if you recall, this one is going to go to our right side. Again, it's Tavius Robinson. And then I like Trenton Simpson's alignment here. Because the tight end is into the boundary, he has taken a little bit wider alignment. Roquan's also moved over. But Roquan's in the exact position he needs to be, which is inside hip, not flowing too far over the top. Look, we're up 27-10 at this point as well. There does come a time in this game where I feel like our defensive focus changes because we have such a big lead. I'm not going to evaluate a crap ton of passing plays in the last 8-10 minutes of the game when in reality the outcome was no longer in doubt. This is a really nice job of Tavius Robinson getting upfield with the left tackle and then Trenton Simpson finishing the play. Again, I think Simpson played well throughout most of this game. I'm guessing that the Ravens staff is having conversations this week with Marlon Humphrey being out and Arthur Millette apparently being back on how to respond to that situation. Basically, do we go nickel and keep Millette, put Millette as the nickel defender and Hamilton as the left safety with Marcus Williams, which would keep Trenton Simpson on the field? Or do we take Trenton Simpson off the field, Millette as the nickel, Kyle Hamilton as the dime linebacker, and then Eddie Jackson as the left safety? Either reaction has its benefits at times, has its usage, but I think with the way that Simpson's playing, he's possibly earning more opportunities to get on the field. 3rd and 12 in the third quarter, the type of thing that we're used to seeing, a quote, crazy-looking blitz that gets home. I think it's Owe up top, who then circles back to get Mayfield under control. Like I said, it's a 3rd and 12. Additional to that, post-snap, you've got Ojabo and Kyle Van Noy dropping out of there. We're bringing 5. But Justin Madubuike, this is the probably 5th time I've seen this in a video that I put out, I think, Tuesday morning on Marlon Humphrey. I talked about this kind of slow play by at least one of our defensive linemen often on Monday night. And Madubuike's tasked with it here. We're essentially, in my opinion, trying to funnel or push Baker Mayfield into the direction of Justin Madubuike. It works out in our favor. Madubuike is there, number one. But let's talk about how we're getting this done. Van Noy threatening the blitz. He's dropping out to middle of the field. Ojabo also dropping out. Check out what we do with Kyle Hamilton or Darius Washington. They both blitz. You can see kind of like this wall that Tampa Bay's offensive line has created. They're very good. They have to be given credit. First of all, we got a 3 under, 3 deep coverage structure from us. No, do we want Ojabo dropping into coverage often? I don't think so. I think he's a guy that doesn't react to the ball, at all. He's not spending a ton of time doing that. They certainly drill dropping out in coverage. I love the blitz of using both of these guys. Roquan additionally being tasked to be a blitzer. It's a 5-man rush scheme. We get home with Owe, which is fantastic to see at any point in time that he's able to make a play. My overall impressions of Roquan Smith are not nearly as negative as others based upon this game. Again, I'm not focusing on 14 to 16 pass plays in the fourth quarter when the outcome of the game is no longer in doubt. Are there certain things that I think we could do better in pass coverage in those situations? Yes. These plays, if you ask me, are the ones that stick out to me the most. Why we're not identifying certain situations, certain vulnerabilities from a defensive standpoint with players that are incredibly smart. Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, Marlon Humphrey, Kyle Van Noy. Those are smart football players. And for us to be giving up some of these easy completions, running backs into the flats, screens, poor reactions to screens by some of our players, in my opinion, those are larger issues of concern than Roquan Smith's individual play. You may have a different opinion, and that's fine, no problem. If you enjoyed the video, I know it went on incredibly long compared to most YouTube content, but I love watching inside linebacker film. Number one, it's one of my most fun things to do. Number two, I spent a significant amount of time cutting up these plays to try to allow the content to stand on YouTube without being hit, if you understand what I mean, in within a 24-hour period. Increasingly, that's happening to all content creators, at least the Ravens content creators I know. So if you've ever considered supporting any of the Ravens content creators, not myself specifically, but any of us, please consider doing so, because increasingly it's becoming very challenging to get content on YouTube that generates and sustains revenue and justifies the time that people spend on it. In this case, I'm not going to stop. So whether they demonetize my videos or not, I will continue to make them. I know Ravens fans enjoy them, number one. Number two, I'm addicted to it from a personal standpoint, which is why I'm so passionate about the mistakes that I think are fundamental pre-snap by our players and our coaching staff that are putting guys like Roquan Smith oftentimes in poor positioning. That would be my overall evaluation. If someone was to ask me about Roquan Smith, which many people have, it would be this. I don't think his play is substantially different from 2023 from a recognition standpoint, from a reaction standpoint, or from an ability standpoint. I think what's different is he's not being consistently put in position to succeed, which is the definition of coaching, at least to me. Appreciate you guys' time. If you enjoyed the video, or at least found my thoughts to be interesting or accurate or otherwise, please let me know in the comment section, number one. Number two, please consider grabbing a link to this video, sharing it out on social media if you'd like to see this content get more reach.